Carmelo Anthony added another accomplishment to the list last night, moving into the top 10 all-time in NBA scoring. With 27,318 points, Carmelo comes right after Moses Malone on the all-time list, a number reachable for Anthony if he maintains his current scoring pace. Max?
Yeah.
How should we look at Melo's career right now?
As a guy who proved a lot of the doubters, and I was probably foremost among them wrong, I looked at Carmelo Anthony on the Knicks. He was the leading scorer on a good team.
Yeah.
Not a championship team, but a good team. But the league was changing out from under him. He was an ISO scorer who could score in every single way. But as the league changed, I felt like what he did, especially as he maybe lost half a step as he aged, was not good enough to be featured the way he was featured. And the league obviously felt the same way because he wound up on a couple different teams, on OKC and Houston. And they thought, all right, even if he can't do all that, maybe he could he could be a catch and shoot kind of guy from three. That wasn't him either, right? So a couple things conspired. I don't think Carmelo's ego could handle him being relegated to a secondary status, and his skills did not translate to the modern 3-and-D wing kind of guy, and he wasn't good enough to carry a team offensively anymore. So I was even like, it's best go play overseas and be the man, because you can't do that in the NBA anymore. So two things happened. One, he recognized he has to accept a different role. And to his credit, in OKC and Houston, they praised him in terms of like what he was willing to do. It just wasn't working out. And two, Stephen A., his team knew how to use him. The Blazers, he's not you know what he can be? He can be a featured offensive guy at times and a rebounder. He could be a shooter and a scorer and a rebound, which is what he's excelling at. And Damian Lillard, I think, is also the kind of leader that Carmelo said, yeah, I could get behind this guy. So he changed, and the team is using him to the best of his abilities, and he's having a great comeback kind of season that I never thought he'd have.
We should view him as one of the great scorers the game has ever seen, a future Hall of Famer, and somebody who was completely and utterly disrespected by the game of basketball. Daryl Morey had every right to say that Carmelo Anthony is not going to work here. What no one had a right to do when he let go of Carmelo Anthony just 10 games into the season. Now, how he handled it is a different ball game. Carmelo Anthony gets word while he's in a hotel room in San Antonio, and then he's got to question Chris Paul to make sure Chris Paul had nothing to do with it. He didn't know anything about it, et cetera, because his feelings were really, really hurt. And, of course, Chris Paul didn't know anything about it at that time because Daryl Morey didn't tell him. But the bottom line is that Daryl Morey may have handled it wrong, but it was perfectly within his right as president of basketball operations in Houston to make that call. But for the league itself to ostracize Carmelo Anthony, talk about he wouldn't accept the role, his ego would get in the way. The guy's been class personified his entire career. And the class and the dignity with which he carried himself, he deserved better than the league writing him off. Ultimately, Portland brought him back on in large part due to Damian Lillard. And thank God they did, because obviously he hasn't won a championship either. You know, I'm going to point that out with any of them. But in the end, when it's all over, we can celebrate him just like we'll celebrate Russell Westbrook and others. We'll celebrate him when it's all over for what he's meant to the game. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.